Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Awakening podcast. This is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with another weekly astrology update. It is episode 257. Tuesday, the 25th today, Mercury retrograde will sextile Pluto. That's what we're going to be doing or experiencing today. And let me tell you guys something. Since Mercury's been retrograding, if you've been listening to my podcast a lot, you know I'm a Mercury ruled person. Every time it happens, I always take 10 times, probably 5 to 10 times to start this episode. I get tongue-tied. When it's not Mercury retrograde, I'm okay. I have a flow to it. But whenever it is, I'm always blah, 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 and tongue-tied. So here we go. Try number 6. Hopefully it goes well. This week, Saturday the 29th, we have the solar eclipse in Aries. It's a partial solar eclipse and the final solar eclipse in the eclipse axis between Aries and Libra. So guys, tap yourselves on the shoulder. My Aries, my Libra, my Capricorn, my Cancer, the cardinal signs. Whoo! You guys are getting a little bit of a break now that we're past that. Then, this weekend on Thursday, March 27th, Venus retrogrades back into Pisces at 4:40 a.m. and will conjunct Neptune at 9:13 a.m. And on Saturday the 29th, the same time as the eclipse, Mercury retrogrades back into Pisces, then conjuncts Neptune at 10:17 p.m. and 10:46 p.m. See how much faster, though? I thought this was interesting. Mercury is than Venus. Even in retrograde, we see that Venus enters, retrogrades back into Pisces, but then takes a few hours to conjunct Neptune. Basically, what is that? 3 hours, 3.5 hours, almost 3 hours and 20 minutes to conjunct Neptune. But then on Saturday, Mercury moves in, and then not even 20, again, I'm not doing the math right now, I don't have a calculator, but Neptune, it moves in, and then within 25 minutes conjuncts Neptune. So we're still in that story of Venus retrograde and Mercury retrograde, and they're going to be moving back into Pisces. All right, so let's talk about the solar eclipse in Aries, the big final solar eclipse in Aries. For now, for a couple years. So the solar eclipse in Aries, this is a closing chapter for my Aries placements out there. We are now closing out what was left in the past during this eclipse season. We are at the end of the closing cycle of changes. You are now on the other side of change and can close the door behind you. Look back and say, damn, what the fuck was that? What just happened to me? What just happened? However, I am very happy where I am today. You are now in a solid chapter of life. I like to describe the eclipses or looking back when you get to the end of the eclipse portal. And remember this for my mutable energy now that we're in the Pisces and Virgo eclipses. At the beginning, chips fall, different life things happen, and you don't realize, but they start to add up over eclipse season. And then when you get to the end of eclipse season, you're looking back, and kind of like I talked last week, I think I said it, I want to say it again, and maybe this is always how I view at the end of the eclipse. You're coming out of a portal, you step through the door, like I said in those memes we would see growing up in high school, and you look back, and you just see a whole world that you can't even look back, can't even make sense of it to where you got today, but you're going through, and it's a brand new world, and you're closing that door. That's what happens. So my Aries placements, again, you guys are closing that door, and you are now solidly where you are at this stage in life. Stages in life come and go. They're not always so permanent, especially for cardinal signs. Usually stages in life come on really strong, but sometimes they can die just as strong as they come on. So you're at a new stage of life. The chapters, the stages are always changing. I know we get scared of change, but that is the one thing you can always guarantee is that your life chapter is going to change. But for now, you guys are in a solid place in your life. Enjoy that. Ride that out for the next couple years. So for my Aries placements, this is just going to be a little bit of a horoscope. This Venus and Mercury retrograde happening before the final, again, for now, Aries eclipse, has been about getting back to what you know to do and what you need to do to become your strongest self. And when I say this, I'm saying strongest physical self, especially because we still have Mars in Cancer, even though it's direct, Mars in Cancer, the moon sign. You may be reflecting back on how far you have come and what you need to do in order to continue to get where you are going. Remember last week we had Mercury conjunct the sun, we had Venus conjunct the sun. So there was sort of the mindset, or maybe the blow up of the mindset, or maybe that awareness you cannot see. And you're like, shit, now I know what I need to do in order to not get burned out, in order to get my physical strength going. And it could be something, because I'm saying this is happening with the retrogrades, returning to something, returning back to some sort of form of self-care that really gives you the push and the drive that you need to keep your momentum going. You're looking at yourself. January, for my Aries placements, when Mars stationed retrograde in the sign of Cancer, you didn't have your normal drive. You didn't have your normal momentum. You didn't have your normal, let's go, let's keep fighting through. You didn't have that. You lost it along the way. You weren't doing something that you should have to take care of yourself or to keep yourself going. We all, again, just like I say, life changes, our momentum changes as well as the stars shift. Sometimes we want to work out, sometimes we don't. Certain signs are better at keeping the flow of that than others, and it usually is Aries. However, right now, you guys didn't have it. Now you are getting your momentum back. I'm telling you, with this solar eclipse, now the next time Venus and Mercury move back into Aries, it's going to be direct. It's going to be like really taking off. And then in April, Mars will enter direct into Leo and trine you guys. So again, you're getting your strength back. But here's some things I want you to focus on with this eclipse and some things that will be showing up for you. Where does your strength come from? And this isn't just for my Aries placements, all my cardinal. Now everyone can focus on this since the sun is in Aries. Where does your strength come from? When do you feel most strong? And I'm talking like physical strength. Also that inner strength that you use to just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But what do you do physically? And again, where does your strength come from? We all have a driving force of our strength, especially when we're tested. Okay? When we are tested, when we're tired, when we got to get shit done. You know where mine comes from, and I was thinking about this as I was thinking about the eclipse and coming together with these notes. Mine, and I feel like this is very, very Mercury, very Gemini, very Virgo of me, very Mercury, and I think my Mercury placements will continue. You know where mine comes from? It comes from not paying too much attention to it. I know that sounds crazy, but even since I had my kids, when I was pregnant with my second, I left their father, and I had a 2-year-old and a newborn, and I worked full time. So I was single. I just did it. So when I'm run down, and I honestly did this when I was young, when I was partying, I'd party all night and I'd go work at the salon the next day when I was like 21. When I'm run down, like I haven't slept, it's been a crazy week, everything is overwhelming, but I have so much to do, I just keep pushing through, and I just keep pushing through by not focusing on it. The more we sit there and say, oh, I'm so tired, I can't do this. This is overwhelming. This is too much. We are literally not going to be able to do it then, because our brain and our body responds, and our brain responds to what we tell it. And I tell my kids this, you have to snap yourself out of it. The more you dwell on the negativity, the more you dwell on what you don't like, the more you dwell on the hardships, the more your life is going to see them, and your brain's going to see them, and they're going to be creating, because that's all you're focusing on. So that's my trick. That is also my trick. I just don't think about it. I just one step at a time. I know eventually I'm going to get sleep. I know eventually I'm going to get relaxation, one step at a time. So that's the awakening this week. It's challenge yourself. Again, I hope last week you guys loosened yourselves the fuck up. But this week is just keep persevering. And if you're overwhelmed this week, because it's going to be a really interesting week. We got Neptune moving into Aries. We got the solar eclipse in Aries. We have Venus and Mercury retrograding back into Pisces. It is going to be an interesting flow and an interesting mix. So when that shows up, don't think about it. When you find yourself dwelling on the day, dwelling on the length of or the lack of strength you have to counteract something, say, I have the strength. I can do this, and talk yourself over the ledge. You really can do it. I promise you. So again, this is a nice final rebirth for your mental and physical strength. April 18th, that is when Mars ingresses back into Leo and will be out of Cancer. Yay! You are feeling that physical strength come back to you. And I'm telling you, by mid-April, you're going to be feeling back to your normal physical self. And for Aries placements, this is going to be, again, for Cancer placements. as well as Scorpio placements. This is a time to start a new strength training program with the solar eclipse. And I mean physical exercise again. And with Mars retrograding in January, like I had said, we didn't have, and this is for the general collective, the normal physical energy. So we are restarting those physical health goals that we set in January, but we need physical movement for so many things. Mind, body, and spirit. So also for the weekly awakening, get your ass moving because it is going to be so important. Mind, body, soul, and moving. Now, last week, again, I said loosen the fuck up with something. And this week, I want you to do something for your physical strength. Okay, the stars are on your side for that. As well as when you're overwhelmed, don't let yourself go down the overwhelmed mental rabbit loophole. It can easily drag us down. And the only way to conquer it, besides meditation, is to tell yourself opposite. You know now, if you're above a certain age and you're doing this a while, you know yourself when you're doing it. You got to catch yourself. You got to stop yourself. So we're going to get that ass moving. We're going to loosen the fuck up. We're going to tell ourselves some positive things when we're stressful. And then we're going to get that ass moving. So that is what's happening. And this is going to move that stuck energy. And that's going to raise your endorphins. And I'm telling you, by the mid-April, guys, we're going to be feeling brand new. We're going to be feeling much better than we have. Honestly, I would say December, January, all of those, February, March. Now, what I'm going to say with this solar eclipse, I have 3 other horoscopes. That's for, like I said, my Aries placements. That's going to go a little bit into Cancer as well as Scorpio. But I want to hear one for Libra rising, Cancer rising, and Capricorn rising. So my Libra risings, y'all are either feeling, and other Libra placements, it can show up like that too. Y'all are either feeling satisfied with how your journey with self-healing from past relationships has led you, and you are now ready to date. If you are single. Now, if maybe you're in a relationship or situationship, you are now ready to take it to the next level with someone. You reach that comfortable place in healing. Again, this is in your 7th house of relationship dynamics that have been playing out over these last 18 months and are now in a completion of how that cycle played out. Some of my Libra risings, and I actually have 2 clients who are, and I know over the last 18 months, they began to start dating again. And one is not yet in a relationship that was solid. However, she is in a very good mindset place and like just really good with self-love. The other one has had one hell of a ride with dating and like some crazy ass stories. But now for the last 5 months, she's been dating someone and it's starting to get nice and serious. So again, for my Libra risings, there was, especially if you have planets in Aries, a lot around relationships. Now, the 7th house is primarily our long-term partnerships or long-term marriage, but it is also business partnerships. I also like to think it, and it showed up in my life, so I know this to be true, as like our very, very close friends, our lifelong friends that often show up like relatives in a way or something along those lines. And our work partnerships as well, especially those people that are outside of a boss that we're actually very, very close to. Some might say your work husband, your work wife. That will definitely play out. Capricorn risings. The chaos in your home environment, all the movements, the fast shifts in your home are now feeling settled and you now know how you want to move forward within your home environment and foundation. What you want the future of your home energy to look like. You should reach a nice new level of acceptance when it comes to relatives and how their actions play a role in your life. And also, again, when it comes to relatives, I'm talking acceptance. Like, that is how they are. That is who they are. Oh, well, you know, how does that play into my family dynamic? How does that play into their family dynamic? Who am I now because of this person? Who am I related to? Or who am I based on my foundation? That it's not just like maybe you had to move or maybe you have people coming in and out of your house, relatives staying, but also like, what is my foundation? A lot of Capricorn risings had their whole foundation sort of like thrown in their face. And it could be just like deep, because that's also the 4th house, the deep subconscious like pain of the family, as well as like the hidden things amongst the family. So something may have shook you. However, now you're in a new place and you again know what you want your home energy to look like. You know what your future goals are for your home. Cancer risings. while we are having this eclipse, while Mars is still in your first house, though it is direct, no longer retrograde, thank God. I feel like that, no offense, Cancer risings, that if this eclipse was happening while Cancer was retrograde, while Mars was retrograding, I think this would be a different outcome. But this is going to be a great outcome for you guys, even though that is still there. Again, it is direct. So you are finding that inner strength, baby. First, you found that inner emotional strength, and you've reached a new level. Healing to feeling, or feeling to healing. You are seeing the emotional benefits of healing through feeling. You are having a physical comeback. And like I said earlier, there is physical strength coming back to you. So you also, similar to Aries, are getting your physical self back together. Like I said, all that Aries stuff is very related to you, my Cancer moons, as well as my Cancer risings, because Mars is in Cancer right now. Well, this is all happening. So you're finding that emotional strength. You're finding that strength within yourself. You're telling it how it is. You're putting yourself forward, and you're getting that physical strength. And in general, my fire signs, you guys are going to get your mojo back, and other fire placements. Now, this next astro theory I would like to talk about is going to be affecting my mutable signs the most. Again, we're in a lot of mutable energy right now still, even though we're out of Pisces season. So Pisces, Virgo, Sag, Gemini, listen up. Venus retrograding back into Pisces and will conjunct Neptune Saturday, February 1st. And then, that will happen on Thursday. And then on Saturday, Mercury will conjunct, move an ingress back into Pisces, and then conjunct Neptune. So this is going to be, like I had said a month ago, a story that has been playing out for you. With Mercury, though, it doesn't necessarily always mean physical. Yes, physical changes will come from this, and sometimes after the retrograde. But often with Mercury, it's our self-awareness. It's the thoughts, especially because both these planets are conjuncting Neptune. So, and it already had done that once. So let's see, a month before stationing retrograde in Aries. So what happened the last weekend of January and beginning of February? That's whenever Venus conjunct Neptune. And then that stretched it out a little bit further. And that was what was happening at the beginning of the month when Mercury conjunct Neptune on March 2nd. Neptune will ingress into Aries, though. So this is going to be quick. The very next day after the eclipse. That's what I'm saying. It's this very interesting energy that is happening this week. This conjunction, though, will happen again, only it will be when Neptune is in Aries on Mercury on April 17th and Venus on May 2nd. So you see again how Mercury and Venus keep doing this little dance. They're together. They're not together, but it will be in direct motion when it moves into Aries. So my fire signs, again, things are looking good for you. But my mutable signs, what has been playing out for you this last month? Really these last weeks. Has it been, for a lot of my mutable signs, we like to party. We like to escape. We like to enjoy. We like to float around. We like to believe our own illusions. We can easily be tricked, or our mindsets are always shifting back and forth. And especially again with these conjunctions with Neptune, I feel like for a lot of people, for my mutable signs, there's something where we've been lying to ourselves over these last 6 weeks about something. And it might not be a out-face lie, but there's something where our subconscious is screaming at us, telling us, but we keep ignoring it. Again, with Mercury, we look to the subconscious, we look to the mind. So what is your subconscious telling you what not to do, or to stop doing, or to start doing? The truth the truth, again, you can feel yourself calling out to yourself, okay? These truths, whether big or small, it's not always ginormous truths, but big or small, it's time to allow yourself to see it. You will dwell or sway in the awareness of the rest of the time that this is in Pisces, okay? So you're going to go back and forth. You're really going to be seeing it this weekend. You're really going to finally, especially after you listen to this episode, be like, okay, let me crack open that brain a little bit. Let me see what is happening. And then once they move ingress back into Aries and they'll be direct, then that's when you take action. That's what you decide to do something, or finally you're ready to do what your subconscious is screaming at you. And you know what I'm talking about, right? It's funny like that. And I was just discussing this with a friend the other day about this, and your body knows. And again, the older you become, the more you can hear your subconscious talking to you. You'll not, your consciousness, your mind, your body, whatever, that stuck energy will just keep doing the same thing, doing the same thing, doing the same thing. Meanwhile, your body is either saying, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that, or do that, or do that, or do that. But we choose to ignore it time and time again. Maybe because it's not quite ready to be dealt with. And I believe in that. I think a lot of things are a fated time. So maybe that is why, because then eventually you do finally listen to your subconscious. But even if you aren't, you're going to be very highlighted this weekend following into the week and the rest of this retrograde in Pisces about what you need to start doing or stop doing and actually start to awaken some of those ideas that have been stuck in your subconscious screaming at you. This is a time, though, where it may be confused about what's happening around you or what actions you're going to take, which is, like I said, you're not going to really take the actions until these planets station direct and ingress back into Aries. Then you're going to be taking the action that you need to. And then Aries, Mars will actually be back in Leo by then. So you will really be taking the action. So don't be down on yourself, my mutable signs, if you are confused about what to do. And you will feel maybe this weekend, too, a little detached from everything this weekend. Feel a little blah with Mercury retrograde. This can bring, in general, watery miscommunications, most likely something that's already been happening since the end of January, or that energy, if you look at it, has already been there, and you still don't quite know which kind of choices you need to make, so you detach with things that distract you. Okay, so that's going to be normal with this Mercury retrograde for the next 2 weeks. Again, this isn't a time to make a new or fast decision, but this is a good time to make a decision that has been playing out over these last couple weeks, again, or these last 6 weeks since the end of January. But it's also a good time to, again, just listen. You don't have to take the action. You can just sit with yourself and meditate, go for a walk, think. Just really get to understand what your subconscious is screaming at you. It's almost like one last big scream. You know, Neptune will ingress. Then on the 24th of my birthday, Saturn ingresses into Aries. They'll be there until this fall, and then they ingress back into Pisces. And then 2025, are we in 2025 now, I guess? Yeah, 2026, they will move into Aries for good for Saturn for a couple years, Neptune for a lot of years. So there is something here with this beginning and ending that we have been playing out for the last year. So beginning and ending. So we're going forward. We're kind of taking action. We're kind of speeding up, but then we're slowing down so we can really see what our subconscious is saying, so we know exactly the action we need to take. I hope I didn't kind of yammer on too much, but again, for my mutable signs, my mutable placements, if you're confused these next 2 weeks, if you're lost, if you want to detach and you don't feel like you want to take the action, give it a 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and definitely by mid-April, you will not be confused anymore, and you will be taking those action steps you need to take. Now, that was a long episode, so next week I will be back, and I will be talking all about what we can expect with Neptune ingressing into Aries, what that transit looks like, how long that transit's going to be happening for, but it stations in, when is that? Sunday. So we have the eclipse, which is really interesting, the final eclipse, but it's a solar eclipse, and then Neptune moves into Aries. It's going to be interesting on a collective level. On the astrology podcast once, I think I was listening last year to the year ahead. I guess it must have been December or something. And they were talking, and honestly, I feel like this was like a year or two ago. They've been talking about this transit for a long time, about how since Neptune has been in Pisces, the collective has been very open. Honestly, since I guess 2013, I'll double check. I think it entered in there. The collective has been very, very open up to astrology and self-healing and shamans and mystics and witches. And think about it. You know, I'm 36. So back then when I was 24, it's really started to I remember the internet really taking off, and I've always been loving astrology, but people were posting about Mercury retrograde. And I remember there was this blog called The Elephant Journal and all this self-healing and very Piscean-like and Jupiter-like. And now that Neptune is moving into Aries, that's going to be a much different feel. So you guys listening now, you're going to be really paying attention, not only to this planet, we got Pluto, and then we got Uranus and Gemini. So there's a lot of big collective planets that we're all now going to be able to witness and identify and see how it shows up in the collective world. So they say on the astrology podcast, I digress, they say on the astrology podcast that they think the healing stuff or the astrology love or the collectiveness and the openness to the other realms of life is actually going to be not as much in the collective once Neptune moves into Aries. So that should be interesting. He doesn't think Austin and Chris Brennan, they don't think that it's going to be as open to that world anymore that the collective has been while Neptune's been in Pisces. So that's just an interesting food for thought. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for continuing to support this podcast. You guys are the best. The best way to support this podcast is to rate, review, send this to someone you know or love. That really gets us out there. I love you guys. Have an amazing eclipse. What's the 3 things? Loosen the fuck up. Get your ass moving. What were the other ones? Stop dwelling and get your ass moving. I love you guys and have a great week.